Can you have a consistent view, meaning one where there's no contradiction, which is also untrue? And I'll just come back and see if I can unshare my screen for a moment. And so what do you guys think? I'd be interested, maybe we could do another show of hands. Put your hand up if you think that something can be consistent, meaning have no contradictions, but also can be untrue. Okay, great. Okay, that's interesting. So if that is the case, then what we're really doing in debate is we are clearing away the inconsistent views at the very minimum. Now, whether or not we are establishing any new view in its place, that's, a big philosophical question that we're not going to go into here. But it's something interesting that's worth thinking about. So let's screen share again and come back to our slides. Okay. So certainty, question mark. Debate can help us identify faulty reasoning, our own and others, but it is contextual. So it's important to know when we're doing this that what counts as a good reason depends upon what the participants already accept. What counts as a good reason depends upon what the participants already accept. Right. So this adds another level of complexity. For example, if we come back to the inferential reasoning that we had before, the mountain has fire because it has smoke. If I'm debating with you and you don't accept that there is a relation between smoke and fire, such that where there is smoke, there is necessarily fire, then I can put this reason to you, and it won't be valid reasoning. It won't be correct reasoning. I have to go off if I'm the challenger, I have to go off what you as the defender holds to be true. Okay, that's another thing to keep in mind. Another example of this would be, and this happens quite often, you have all your definitions laid out and you've memorized everything, and then, as the challenger, you come along and you say to the defender, oh, what's the definition of blah, 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 and they give you a definition which is completely out of left field. You can't say to them, no, that's wrong. You can say, that's not what's in the text, haha, you're saying something outside of what everyone accepts. But you can't tell them they're wrong. You have to actually go with the definition that they give. Great. Excellent. Another question for reflection. Do you think debate can lead to certain truth? Do you think debate can lead to certain truth? And I'll flip back now. And again, I'm going to ask you guys, if you wouldn't mind, to give me a show of hands if you think a debate can lead to certain truth. Okay, great. Yeah, there are a few hands there. Okay, great, excellent. Nice. By the way, I don't have an answer to these questions. I'm raising them because I want to find out what you guys think. Okay. So let's flip back to screen share. So some of these reflection points are good things to think about as you go through. Like if you're completely new to debate and you're like, I don't know what it can do because I haven't tried it before, maybe by the end of the course you can have some opinions on these things. Right, winning the unwinnable. So the debate really ends when a challenger traps the defender in a contradiction. So the challenger has to get the defender to contradict their earlier thesis. And if the challenger can do that, then that's when the debate ends. Otherwise, the debate ends when the bell rings for tea time and everybody is ready to go and eat. Basically, otherwise it doesn't really end. It just kind of postpones until the next session, or until, you can be bothered to start again. One thing to keep in mind is that there is no shame in losing. There is no shame in losing a debate. Losing a debate is one of the most valuable things about debate, in my opinion. Good debaters love to lose. There is like, all these traditions of, there's stories in the tradition about, people who would purposefully go out of their way to lose, and then they became the best debaters because by, trying out new things and trying out new positions and losing, that's how you learn, what doesn't work and what does work. So I would really, really invite you guys to, embrace the practice of losing a debate, because you learn something new, and also because it's just so much fun to lose. When you're a defender and you know that you have fallen into a trap and you can see the answer coming, and it's like a freight train coming towards you, and you try and go this way and you can't go this way, and you try and go this way and you can't go this way, and eventually the train hits you and you're like, oh. And it's very, very joyful. So basically what I'm saying is, in debate, everybody wins. So brief summary of what we've done in this lecture. The 3 motivations for the debate: the good, the bad, and the ugly. The fact that debate uses inferential reasoning, which we will go into much more in the following lectures. So don't worry if that sort of if you haven't quite grasped that yet. The fact that debate uses consequentialist reasoning, and the fact that debate sorts out bad reasoning, sorts out reasoning which is contradictory. And also, last of all, everybody wins. So the joy of debate. This is my favorite slide, because this nun, she looks so happy, and you can just see the pure, joy on her face. Debate is structured improvisation. It is serious play. It is the practice of conviction with flexibility. It is competition for a unified goal of understanding. Basically, the practice of debate is this sort of amazing, beautiful paradox of all, this sort of, it's just amazing. I don't have time to do it justice here. But in summary, more than anything, I wish to communicate the sheer joy of debate. Right, so thus ends our first lecture. Let me unscreen share for a minute. Okay, great. So what we're going to do now is, we have about half an hour left. Great, that's perfect. So what we're going to do now is what is called an unstructured debate. So this is not something in the tradition. This is not what we're going to be doing the rest of the time. But we thought it would be good to start you guys off with having a kind of comparison between the way that we sort of debate in common life and then the way that we're going to, debate in this, by way of this formal practice. So in order to do that, Stefan, who is heading up the stairs now, I see. Hey, Stefan. Okay. So first of all, Stefan and I are going to have give an example. We are going to discuss very briefly the topic of is everything which is wet and fluid water. I believe that's it. Everything that is wet and fluid is water. We're going to have a little discussion, and then what we're going to get you guys to do is we're going to get you guys to break out and go outside and have a little bit of a discussion about this or one of the other questions from the day 1.1 8.1 exercises. So, shall we start, Stefan?
Yes, let's get started.
And the purpose of this is to sort of show the contrast between this and a structured debate, which is what the rest of the course is going to be. So Stefan.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, so the thesis is everything that is wet and fluid is water.
Everything that is wet and fluid is water. So, Stefan, do you think that everything that is wet and fluid is water?
I say yes, I think so.
Okay. So, what do you think about, what about coffee and tea? Is that water?
That's wet and fluid, yes. I wouldn't say it's water, but it has water. It contains water to a large degree, and that's what the coffee is. That's why that substance, that drink we call coffee, is wet and fluid, because it has water.
Well, so then everything that's wet and fluid has water, but you said that everything that's wet and fluid is water.
Fair point. All right.
So what do you think is water? Because I think water is H2O.
I think that's a good definition. I'm unsure whether I would say everything that is wet is water or everything that is water is wet, but there is some connection going on there.
So you think maybe it goes one way but not the other way?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not so sure about that.
Okay.
In which direction?
So what about molten metal?
Molten metal, that's fluid. Yeah. So let's check out what's wet and not fluid, and what's fluid and not wet. So molten metal is fluid, but I wouldn't call it wet.
You don't think molten fluid is wet? Okay.
I don't think so.
So what about do you think that everything that's fluid is water?
No, because, for example, molten metal, I would call it a fluid. Or from what I know about physics, is that pure glass, not modern versions, but pure glass, are also considered a form of liquid. If you look at old factory windows or something like this from the 20th century or earlier, then the bottom part of the glass window is thicker because the liquid glass ran down over time, and there's thinner parts of the glass on top. As an example, for example.
So you're saying that glass is fluid, but not water, and also not wet.
I accept, so to speak.
We're already using debate language, yeah?
Can I get out of the system?
Okay, right.
You mentioned before that your definition of water, or your understanding of water, is H2O. But what does it mean for something to be H2O? That's explaining a foreign word with a foreign word, so to speak. So if you say water is H2O, then what is H2O?
H2O is the thing which is composed of, I'm going to show my absolute scientific inability here. It's things that are composed of hydrogen dioxide, and composed of 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom.
So everything that is having 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom is water.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Yes, that's right.
But,
I'm going to say it's right.
Then what about? Oh dear, what's the English word for that?
For what?
I'm trying to get back to my chemistry knowledge. So oil, I think, is a long chain of no, that's something else. It was carbon. Never mind, scratch it. But
oh yeah.
what if we have a molecule. So if I would be good at chemistry, I could provide better examples, but I know there are molecules that have oxygen and hydrogen and some other stuff attached to it.
Okay.
Is that also water then? Because that has oxygen, at least twice, and hydrogen.
Okay, can you drink them and not die? Maybe that's another definition.
Probably. So if you can drink it and do not die, then it's water. All right. Okay.
So I think that gives everybody a flavor of what we're doing here, and so if everybody is ready, actually I'll just share on the screen really quickly. I'll share my screen again one more time. And I will show you the exercises. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at the day 1.1 exercises. And the instructions are, please choose one of the following 3 questions to discuss with your debate partner. Debate it with them in conversational English. Even if you have previously learned the Nalanda Debate, don't use it now. So I think that's pretty straightforward for you guys to read through those questions and have a debate about them. So we'll break out for a short while. If you feel like you are ready to come back in, if you feel like you've done it and you want to come back in, please come back into the temple. But otherwise, if it's taking a while, then I will ring the gong. Okay. Thanks, guys. Please go and have fun.
And so just a reminder that you can find just any partner, and those little shadowy black circles all around the outside of the temple are private spaces, as well as each of the groups of cushions in the temple are private spaces. So you can just go and wait in one and wait for someone else to come, or you can meet up with someone and say, hey, let's go, follow me, however you want to do it. So I'm going to go and join someone so that I can get it on the stream.
Joe, do you have the...
One of these questions. Hi, Donio.
Hello.
Thanks. That's pretty amazing what you've set up. Thank you.
Yes, I'm gonna be streaming. We forgot to announce it, but just the idea is that in these bigger circles, those are sort of open to be part of the ones that get streamed to YouTube. So if that's okay with you, I'll just listen. I mean, maybe I could join in too, but that way at least we have the people who are watching on the stream be able to also hear something interesting going on. Hey, Dan.
Okay.
Okay. Did you? I know both of you personally, which is nice. But did you meet each other yet?
Well, no. But we have just met.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Good.
Hi.
Hey, nice to see you. You look good.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks.
So
You too.
let's jump into the exercise. Do you
Right.
guys understand like where all the you have the proper
Yes.
documents and everything?
I just opened up the document.
Okay.
So I think the
there's
choice
5
we have
questions on here
is
actually.
between, does color exist or is it just made up by the brain? Number 2, is color light? Do roses and clouds have color? Number 3, does all sound have or express meaning? Number 4, is that which is wet and fluid always water, which is the one they did? And is everything that is long not also short? So do you want to pick one, Daniel?
Could we talk about does all sound or express meaning?
And remember,
great.
there's sort of like a little bit of, if you read like, there's like a little bit of the thought process behind why would this question come up, right? So you can kind of read through that and then use that to start off. But yeah, that's a good question.
So it says any sound can be interpreted to have a variety of meanings. Meaning is in the ear of the beholder, just as beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Therefore, it is senseless to distinguish between intelligible and unintelligible sounds.
Intelligible and unintelligible.
And if you've done the homework, you'd see that those were the divisions of sound in the outline, right? The ontology we're using as the basis for our debate. We divide sound. The sound is divided into intelligible, which is defined as, objects in the domain of auditory consciousness, which express semantic content, versus unintelligible.
Which expresses an understanding of semantic content or its meaning, whereas unintelligible is an object in the domain of auditory consciousness, which does not express a meaning. So the question is, does all sound have or express meaning?
It's a sound. And I suppose by definition then, by the definition of unintelligible sounds, not all sounds have or express meaning.
I agree. I mean, so it seems like there certainly is a division of a group of sounds that are unintelligible, that do not express any meaning.
Well, so again, the definition there is that it creates an understanding of semantic content. So what would be some kind of sound that can't do that? You're saying some sounds are unintelligible. What kind of sound would not be able to do that?
That's a good question.
That's a very good question.
I mean, what about what about the
Go ahead.
sound of, pitter patter of a rainstorm? I mean, that's quite poetic, and it can make people feel sadness and maybe nostalgia, or maybe people who like the rain will feel happy from that. Is that some kind of semantic content or not?
It's a good question what kind of content that is. I don't know if semantic.
Well, meaning. That's kind of being used synonymously with meaning.
Yeah, so in that sense, any sound can potentially have a meaning or an interpretation by the person who is listening to it, I guess, depending on what it evokes in them, right?
So then all sound is intelligible. That's where we end up, right?
Right.
Well, unintelligible, I mean, it's a basic example I can think of when you're trying to, for example, if my video is on here, but if there's something going on in the kitchen right here in the nunnery, and I can't hear what you're saying, I would say, excuse me, I don't follow what you're saying. It's just jumbled. So in that sense, it would be an unintelligible sound.
But would it still have the meaning of something that you expect to have an intelligible semantic content that you're not receiving? Like, is that a meaning? Like, it still communicates that to you, that you're something that's not intelligible.
for me, not at that point, not necessarily. I know the person is trying to communicate something, but it's not making sense to me at that particular point because I can't hear it clearly. Or for somebody who is, I mean, deaf, or like my father who is going deaf, who is aging, and it's really difficult sometimes to have a conversation with him because he cannot follow what you're actually asking him. So would that be an example then of something that is unintelligible?
Because
That's a
it
good
depends on
question.
him not being able to make sense out of it.
Exactly, or hear it. And
I mean, that's sort of, it's not really, is it, well, that's the question. Is it expressing a meaning if no one can understand it? I mean, it comes down to if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Right.
If no one's getting meaning from the sound, is it expressing meaning? If someone's taking meaning from sound, even though it's not intending, there's no one intending to make meaning out of it, but someone, interprets meaning, is it then expressing meaning? If it's just a
Or
natural
like,
sound, the sound of the tree falling, the sound of a brook, the sound of a stream,
because that's a sound. I mean, if a tree falls,
but as they
no, please.
go ahead, Daniel, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that if the famous tree falls in the woods thing, that falls in the woods and someone hears it but doesn't know what it is it intelligible? Is that intelligible or unintelligible? Like it's heard, but its meaning is not,
But there's different levels, like you were saying, of like someone in the other room that you can't hear what they're saying, but they're saying something. So you have
right.
a understanding of the intention to communicate. You just don't know the specifics of what they intended to communicate. So you hear something in the forest, look at animals, how like a cat, maybe not, all cats are the same, but some cats, something, a big object falls over near them, and immediately they just run away. They jump because they just hear a big sound, right? They don't make sense of if it's danger or
Right.
not. They just hear a big sound and run. So it's like there's some semantic content. Maybe it wasn't, they didn't know, oh, it was just like a chair that fell over, no big deal, or it was just whatever,
Yeah. So
So
I
there,
That
mean,
would also depend on proximity for the but it doesn't have any definite meaning, but it has some form of meaning, just one that's not definite.
right.
Yeah,
You
so
can understand something.
yeah, so for me then, yeah, I mean, it is possible for sound to be unintelligible because that person is still not been able to make any meaning out of it. So whereas with certain sounds, it's very clear what the meaning is, even though it's possible to interpret it in different ways. So I don't know, Daniel, would you agree that there's intelligible and unintelligible sound? Or does all sound have or express meaning?
I think that's
Well,
the
it's also
sound of the gong.
so much the listener.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you back into the temple. If you still have more to say, then please feel free after the session has ended. Please feel free to stick around and continue your no doubt very interesting debates. But for now, because we don't have so long left, if you could come back into the temple, that would be great.
That was very nice.
Good
Okay,
talking to
guys.
you.
See you.
Thank you, Doria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just leave it another minute for people to come back inside. Okay, so let's start while people are trickling back in. A couple of quick housekeeping things. First of all, if you hear the gong, it means it's time to slowly come inside. And I'm not sure if the gong was, perhaps it was too quiet. I might have to pick a louder gong. Another thing is that on the side of the temples, there are these grey circles. If you go into one of those grey circles, there's some big ones and some small ones. If you go into one of those grey circles, then you will be able to carry on debates without other people hearing you, and like people outside the circle hearing you, and without you hearing them. So the people that were debating in the very front, that's great, but it's sometimes a little bit distracting because you can hear the other people around you. So that's just a little note for convenience sake. The other thing is that if you would prefer not to be recorded, because this is also being streamed live, so if you prefer not to be recorded, please go to some of the circles at the back of the temple. Great, excellent. So hopefully everybody is back in now, and hopefully that was interesting, and that you got some of the sort of, intellectual juices flowing. So from now on, though, I would invite you not to debate like that. So if you're in a debate and you find yourself explaining too much, and you find yourself wanting to kind of, go on tangents and explore other things and, use sort of colloquial, language, then I would advise you to not do that, to kind of bring it back to the formal way of talking. So I've just got a few more things to say. Actually, there's quite a few things that I wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to say about the course and how it operates. But let's see how we go. So first of all, I would really like to just recognize that here we have people from all sorts of different backgrounds and occupations and traditions. And so it's super exciting, diverse group of people. I really hope that you get something out of this course, irrespective of what your background is, whether you've debated before, whether you're a Buddhist or a non-Buddhist, whatever your sort of reason for being here is. I really hope that you get something out of it. Keeping in mind that we're so diverse, you'll notice that the style of teaching also is kind of like a bit of a smorgasbord. We've got all sorts of different styles of teaching. So basically, it's up to you guys to decide what suits you. If you're here just for the theory and you just want to listen to the lectures, totally fine. If you're here just because you want to actually learn the practice, that's amazing. I would suggest that really, to get a good understanding of what debate is, it does involve actually doing it. So I know it feels weird and it's sort of might be a bit uncomfortable at first, but I really encourage you just to kind of give it a go. But if it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine as well. Your involvement is completely up to you. We've also got a whole range of different learning materials. So we've got like drills and worksheets and templates and scripts. So again, choose what works for you. If you're a visual learner, use the visual things. If you're a linguistic learner, use the lists of things. Choose what works for you, basically. When you're using the especially with the drills and the scripts, just use them until you're ready to not use them anymore. point of them is not for their own sake. The point of them is to get you up and debating. So if you feel like, yeah, I'm already fine, I can do this, I'm ready to like get out there and, give it a bit of a whirl, then that's a sign that you don't need to use them anymore. So just use them when you need them, basically. They're really important though, like especially for beginners. So for those of you who are beginners, please try to use some of these materials, because the idea is in debate, it's really important to say the words. It's really important to go through the language. It's really important that it kind of becomes like, it becomes fluid, not in a wet water way, but the language becomes fluid, so it kind of goes straight from your ear to your mouth without necessarily going through your mind, or at least that's what it feels like. Obviously, that's not really happening. Right. So that's all I have to say for now, because we are running out of time. We will be back, I think, in... is it an hour and a half, Doniola, that we'll be back? Or is there anything that you wanted to add before we close up?
No, we'll be back in 90 minutes. So whichever time zone you're in will determine what time that is, but in an hour and a half.
Okay, so we didn't have time for questions, but there'll be plenty of time for questions in the future. And so, thank you very much for being here. Unless I'm forgetting anything, thank you so much. And